Northwest face a costly problem: gray wolves attacking livestock from nearby forests. To help, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is testing drones in Oregon to scare off the endangered animals without hurting them. The drones use loud sounds like gunshots, heavy metal music, and even a tense scene from the 2019 Oscar-winning film Marriage Story to keep the wolves away. We sat down with Paul Wolf from the USDA to discuss how wolves respond to these drone sounds and which audio clips prove most effective at protecting livestock.
This whole idea started back in 2022, where we were conducting night work, where we technically call it night watch, where staff are out there. We added the drones, and our first experience with using drones, the wolves were play bowing. And so just by chance, it didn't work. The pilot at that time flew back, switched out the battery. He took a speaker and yelled at the wolf and said, "Hey, wolf, get out of here." The wolf elicited a very positive negative response, and ran back into the woods. That got all of us thinking, like, is this an opportunity for drones, and how can this work with our normal activities of trying to mitigate conflicts between wolves and livestock or what have you, right? So that's how this all started. Now, what we're doing right now is we're testing various sounds. Obviously, back then, it was our human voice. We were yelling at them, different pilots yelling different things, and the wolves were responding to that. We tried music, that worked as well. One thing that we did notice is that gunshots and just some of the standard noises that we would use on our branch to try to deter wolves wasn't working as strongly. And so I went to our research branch, the NWRC, and I'm working with Dustin. And so what he's done is created some different audio clips. This whole marriage story thing is just one piece. It's a non-biased. So it's a male and female that are arguing, and it's the same routinely, right? So we're comparing that to using thunderstruck or whip sound. And so we've got a systematic way of evaluating this. And so we are seeing the wolves respond. We're still evaluating this, so it's hard to say like one thing is better than the other. From our anecdotal experience, the human voice has been very good for us. Like we're seeing a very negative response. So as of right now, that's what it's looking like. We are starting to see maybe some habituation, more like the wolves are being annoyed by the drone with the sounds that we're playing, and they're maybe not as strong, but they are still moving away.
We also touched on the concern that the wolves may adapt to these sounds, and if this would potentially reduce their effectiveness over time.
We know that whether it's wolves or bears or whatever, animals do tend to habituate to things that are very repetitive, right? One thing we're excited about with the drone is that you approach the wolves at different angles. We're using different sounds constantly, so it constantly is changing things up. Now, I say that because this is just one tool in our toolbox. We're working with ranchers to remove attractants. So sometimes there are dead animals. It could be a dead deer that falls on a rancher's property. Could be a cow that unfortunately tipped over and died. And so we work with those ranchers to remove those attractants, which would pull wolves or other predators in. And so we remove those. And that also helps because the more a wolf is hanging around a ranch, the more that it has opportunity to learn bad behaviors. So, the drone is just one piece of this whole puzzle. We have staff that will operate in vehicles sometimes if it needs to go that way. So far, we are able to decrease the number of personnel that we have out in the field because of the use of the drone. We can sit in one spot. We can chase with the drone. We can detect with the drone. But in cases where we need to escalate this, we will get a person in a vehicle to get out in strategic spots where we can try to drive them away. We may use pyrotechnics. Obviously, here in Oregon, it's fire season, so we can't use anything that's sparking or that could potentially start a fire. So we use different type of noisemakers and just trying to chase them back. So it's a very integrated approach on mitigating these things.
Finally, we asked if these drone interventions have impact cattle losses compared to periods without the use of the drones.
When we look at from 2020 to 2022 and our addition to drones, we've been able to, obviously during that time, we had still a lot of personnel trying to mitigate, but it became very obvious to us that how well the drone worked. In addition to our ground activities, I would tell you since we've deployed the drone and been able to do this activity, back in 22, before we actually implemented, we had in a 20-day period, there was 11 depredations. And then back once we started, I should say when we started, we had stood up a deployment of several personnel including other drones for 85 days. Again, very labor intensive, but we decreased the number of depredations to only 2. So prior to us, there was 11 cattle depredations once we, in a 20-day period. And then once we started doing our night work with the use of the drones, we decreased the depredations over 85 days to only 2.